Whenever you do that, it reminds me of a Selena Gomez song.
The
I
famous,
love you like a love song, baby, and I keep hitting repeat, peep, 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 peep.
brilliant. Guys, week 13, 13 weeks of crazy good, and we are on transformation versus information. So quick bit of housekeeping. I actually have the audio, the Steve Chandler audio for this one as well. I didn't notice this until today. I'd normally send that with a few days' notice ahead of the call, but when we finish the call later this evening, I'm going to email that audio out to everyone, and you can enjoy that this week. Um, but yeah, I'd love to hear from someone who would like to kick us off today and yeah, take us in a direction. I think it's fitting that it's Dennis.
It's really amazing as I was reading these chapters in preparation for tonight. Um, there's a lot of information out there about near-death experiences and about the effect it has on you and about the effect that it can have and the things that it creates. But until you go through something like that, it doesn't have the same relevance. It doesn't have the same power. And I can tell you that almost dying is one of the best things that's ever happened to me because it's given me such a depth of understanding. And we talk time and time again about our belief systems and how quickly we can replace an appropriate belief system to take the place of one that doesn't work for us. It's I like to refer to it as, the home remodel. Generally, you want to go work on a house, you want to make it more beautiful. You got to go through a bunch of shit to clean it out and get rid of all the stacks of stuff and put them in the dumpster and blah 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 blah, and do all this other stuff. You can instantly replace a belief system with one that works for you. And that's what's happened with me. My belief system has become further refined to understand even more the depth of the love of the universe, not only for me, but what's available for you. And, dude, I got to tell you, I don't want to be a smart ass about it or anything, but um, I'm turning into quite the monster with this transformation thing because the path that I'm on recently is really, it blows my mind. And it's an honor and a privilege to be in a position to experience this transformation in my life. And I love you guys, and you're all part of that too. So like that's it. Outside of that, nothing to say.
I love how you're you're expanding scope of what is available for you. I love how you then instantly went on to say, and therefore I can see that for other people. I love that, and it makes me think of um, I don't know where I first heard this phrase, may possibly Nick Bettini. You can only take your clients or people, people you have relationships with, you can only take them as deep as you've gone with yourself.
Yes, I always say that. Don't follow anybody that hasn't been there. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's all theory and conjecture. But you look him in the eye. Ash, I was talking to Ash Halliburton today, and she's casting for a short film that she's going to do on grief. And she had the people that wanted to audition for it speak very shortly about their personal loss and how they dealt with grief and how they dealt with losing a child is what this was specifically. And she goes, I saw this guy and it was all over. And she turns around, she holds the camera up, and I looked at him and I looked at her and I said, yep. I said, that man has been there. I could see it in his eyes. I could see it in his face. You know how I know? Because he's me. Survivors recognize survivors. Those that love recognize those that love. And it's not an exclusive club because you can develop it in those around you. But shut up, Dennis. Anyway, I love you guys.
I love that straight off the bat you've pointed to the difference between knowledge and having an experience. And I think that fundamentally that's the beating heart of this chapter. So do you know, as you say, is it theory? Is it conjecture? Are they words on a page? Is it a chapter you read in a book? Or have you had an experience? And I really love that at the start of this chapter, Steve effectively defines transformation as change. And that's what you've opened with, Dennis, is you've had an experience and you've something has changed.
No shit.
Beautiful. Is there any more you want to share for now, Dennis?
Um, I could go for a few days, but I love my family and I want everybody to have an opportunity to share what they're thinking too, because any thought that I have, theirs is just as relevant. And I'm excited to be in the presence of such cool people. There's something really special about being part of a tribe. And insofar as we go out and are in a position where the belief systems that we have established are something of a shorthand that limits us, we also establish in our transformation something of a shorthand that promotes and allows us to move around to a lot of different places at will. And it's cool to be in a group of people that think that way. But yeah, um, I want to find out what everybody else thinks.
All right, well, maybe hear from you in a bit. Does anyone else want to share what they took from this? Any insights that happened? Any lived experience? Elizabeth.
Thanks. There are a lot of bits, but I'm just going to go to one and maybe I'll say more later. Um, Toward the end, I loved how he was talking about the comfort zone and like this informational comfort zone and how we sometimes tend to make it our cocoon, right? And that's like the safe space. And like, yeah, I'm good like learning as much as I can about this. And yeah, I'm going to sit over here and like take it all in and absorb it and digest it. And then I'll like play with it or figure it out. But it's that cocoon and sometimes we have a choice to like start playing, and by playing like small, not like taking the big leap. I also loved that. Like not like busting out of the cocoon doesn't have to be the dramatic leap, right? It can be like the small daily 1 minute, 15-minute steps that just push you into action and you start to break out of the cocoon. Sometimes we have no fucking choice, like Dennis just experienced. Our cocoon is shattered. Um, and sometimes that can be a blessing in disguise. Um, but considering this is a book of choices, thinking about information and the safety of the cocoon, that's a choice. So that's it for now. There'll be more. I mean, a lot of notes, but
My mind took it to um, safe in what you quote unquote know, but about yourself. So not maybe not necessarily because the book is talking about the comfort zone of well, if I just keep reading books, you know, effectively I don't want to. Let's take an aspiring coach. You know, I don't want to, you know, piss someone off or follow up or make a proposal. I'm fearful of that experience. But if I keep reading enough books, you know, cool, safety cocoon. But my mind there took it to there's also the how do I phrase this? The misunderstanding of the information that we believe to be true about ourselves and how that can be a cocoon.
mm-hmm.
That can be a safety zone. However,
Yeah.
unhelpful. And I love that Steve talks in this chapter about looking through the lens of usefulness. How
Yes.
useful is this? I.e., what's the practical use of this?
And not like, do I agree with it or not? Right. Like, that's not like that doesn't, whoa, it's like way beyond that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So if we're looking at it in that internal world, it's like going beyond, oh, that's a good thought, that's a bad thought, that's a scary thing, and is it a useful thought?
Mhm.
Is you thinking that and believing that about yourself, is it actually useful? Is it helpful? And it's interesting. I shared that with someone recently. I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to play. I am playing around with this idea of like, is that useful?" Rather than giving it the good bad label. And their interpretation was, you can't go around just thinking good thoughts all the time. And it was interesting how we had this miscommunication. I thought, no, it's that good bad thing I'm trying to get beyond to like, what's the actual
Yeah.
practical
Like,
use?
how is that serving you? Like, for what you want in this moment? Yeah. Mm.
But it strikes me in the journey of transformation, and this is something I certainly um, have experience of. It's often easier and more comfortable to believe the bullshit you've been believing about yourself for a long time because it is familiar. You know it. you've embodied it, you've practiced it, it's a habit. And sometimes I had a coaching session with Bloom on Saturday, and we dug really fucking deep. We were at this for 2 hours and we hit an access denied point. I just went blank. I was like, she's asking, what would that be like? I was like, can't conceive at this present moment. But we've hit a point where it's like, no, that feels, yeah, that feels edgy. And on the other side of that is possibly beliefs or thinking that's so much more useful, and yet it's so uncomfortable, so out of the cocoon, the comfort zone of what I have been thinking and believing. The experience, at least then, was access denied. And so there's like yeah, that was just my interpretation when you went there with that sort of
It's
information.
powerful.
Is there any more for now?
Just a quick follow-up to what you just said, just in how you going back to our book of choices and how you choose to like play with that access denied too, right? Like that's where the power is. That's amazing.
Oh, that's really brought up an excellent question that our friend Nick Trepka asked in a breakout room recently. He boiled it down really. I can't remember what exercise we were doing, but it was sharing a problem that we were having. I think it was one of our listening, calibrating, clarifying questions exercises. Um, and yeah, it was up against one of those, not necessarily like an access denied, but certainly something that feels like a very solid block of problem. Um, and he said, okay, um, are you going to proceed or are you going to back away? And I loved that because it also spoke to the part of me that's like, I'm not fucking backing away. I'm going to proceed, yeah, whatever the experience is. And I'm keeping that question tucked away because I thought it just cut straight to the point. Again, the useful, practical, real world application. It's like, okay, cool. There's some tricky experience that has practical ramifications. Cool. You are you going to face it or not? So, you know, love that.
It's getting real.
Hmm. Again, back to this chapter. In that moment, you could go and read any psychology book off the shelf and go, oh no, okay, this is the thing. Or go, okay, what are the practicalities? What's actually going on here? What do I need to do? What are some actionable steps? Awesome question. Is there any more?
It's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
Hey, friends. Dennis, good to see you. Um, to me, by way of background, Will and I had a session the other day, so I'm probably going to bring up some of the same stuff, Will. But the first thing that comes to mind based on the conversation so far is that um, all this, all this, all the coaching, all the teaching, all the lessons, everything we're writing down is is basically theoretical and of no purpose unless it's tested. And as in science, well, I've got a theory. Okay, well, it sounds like we need to run an experiment. And Will, in our conversation the other day, I brought up how he had used that word experimentative a session or two before, and it really took the charge out of some of um, the hesitance I had around making certain decisions or playing with certain concepts, and um, approaching it from that standpoint. Then there's a lightness to it when we can just be experimenting and not having to have everything thought out 10 steps ahead, but only this one step here. Okay, I've got this one bit of information. Let me just play with it. Let me experiment with it. Let me put it to practical use. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try. And so all of this has to be tested for us. And what rings true or is resonant for one person is not going to be resonant for another. So that's the good news too. And I've found so far that in the 7 or 8 months since I've been part of the Domino cohort in general, I've there's an embarrassment of riches of teaching and coaching and youth and beautiful information and beautiful human beings and all that. But I find now that it's going to have to come. I'm putting it through a funnel now, and I have to actually start to say, okay, it's all good, but to me right now, only I like that 80-20 ratio, so we'll stick with it. 20% of this is probably useful for me right now. So which 20% is that? And which 80% do I say, that's great, set it aside, set that aside? Or in the language of another book that I'm reading right now, that 10x is easier than 2x, the Michelangelo's David, Michelangelo, I chip away everything from the stone that is not David. It's easy. And as I've been more comfortable doing that, I've felt more confident. And the most curious little synchronicities have happened along the way. And I also feel like, it's all fun and well when we get to choose which part of the teachings we're going to put into practice. But then we run up against situations that we don't see coming that are more dramatic, as like in Dennis's situation or whatever, when it's really going to matter a lot what we've chosen to focus on out of all this. Or have we just taken in more information, or do we have a foundation to stand on when things get really fucking difficult? So I love and for someone who's been reading this books from the self-development pantheon or canon for I don't know, probably going back to probably 20 years really. Yeah, that's a lot of knowledge, and I'm not quite sure. Little things might come up here and there, but the useful stuff always sticks. That's the good news too. It's like that one little gem of something you might have read 10 years ago is still there. So the brain actually is able to extract some of this on its own and store it away. Yeah, I offer that for right now. I love the practicality of this chapter. And especially this transformation means change section number 2. So that's that's it for now.
I love that. What came up for me there is there's a coach called Sachin who maybe some of the people in here have met, worked with. I think maybe Nick is currently being coached by him. And one of his things, I've seen him post a fair bit about this, fuck your insights. And of course, that's the big dramatic opener to capture your attention. But effectively, he goes on to and expands on this. Like, are you just hoarding insights? Are you just keeping those where it's like, oh my God, I see so much, and it's like, that is really cool. Absolutely has its place. So much openness can occur from there. So much expanded perspective and possibility. Wicked. Now what? What? what are you going to do with that?
Mhm.
I'm not surprised that this chapter is placed where it is in the book. It feels fitting that we've been on this journey, and towards the end of the book, he's starting to bring it down and go, what are you going to do now? What are you going to create with this? What are you going to use this for? And I can certainly like reflecting on myself in what I've just heard you share. Um, Even this domino cohort, I particularly around the realizations I had with metal, loving metal, wanting to play metal, fucking metal, right? It was that day, that Thursday, where it all landed. It's a big dopamine hit. That's a rush. And I spent the next 2 or 3 weeks almost trying to get back to that, trying to get a bit of that hit again and get that feeling, and almost thinking like I needed that. I was like, oh my, I felt so inspired and so open and so like, wow, that day something shifted so powerfully, and I wanted to return to that. And of course, in those 2 or 3 weeks, wasn't taking part in the actionable stuff. Was I getting on the phone to people and going, I'm starting a band? Do you know metal drummers that can do all the double kick stuff? I wasn't doing that, Karen. um, so yeah, I think that I at first I didn't get Sachin's thing. I was like, no, insights drive the change. I was like, no, hang on. Insights plus integration application drives the change, creates the long lasting experience of a different life. And I see that now. And I loved as well, like the 80/20 that you used as well. There's one chapter from the book How to Get Clients by Steve Chandler, which I've used in the last few months. And that one chapter alone, that 120%, has made a massive difference. It was playing around with the referrer triangle, just that one bit. And I kind of remember the feeling of the rest of the book, but that was the bit that stuck and filtered through. I was like, okay, this just intuitively feels like the thing to play with.
There's always some risk involved, even in the small stuff, even in those small things that we're going to experiment with, these concepts we've learned. Um, but uh, but that acclimates us to it, I think, and we get used to that feeling, and then it stops being something we worry about. Like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen if I say this now, or if I call this person now. I don't know, but it's going to be fine. This is not life and death here. You know, this is just working my way, feeling my way forward, but intelligently and with this on this foundation of the teachings that have mattered most too. And that other thing you said about fuck your insights reminds me of course, the Zen saying, if Buddhism is standing in your way on the path to enlightenment, then kill the Buddha. There comes a time at which you focus too much on the systems and the teaching, and you don't act. We don't test it. We don't experiment. Essentially the same thing.
And it's Buddhists that share that. They
Yeah.
say, yeah,
Yep.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love hearing the different language that different people from different places have used to communicate the same human ideas and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Based 1,000,001 different ways of lovingly saying, get on with it.
It's on us. Yes. We
Yeah.
make the choices.
Mm.
Yep.
Mm. Mm. There was something I was going to ask, but it has slipped my mind temporarily. Uh, That's it. If I heard you right, you were saying, we can practice getting into the experience and getting used to dropping the thinking. Was I hearing you right? Like picking up
Yes,
the phone and dropping the what's going to happen? What are they going to say? Well, yeah.
that is my experience right now in real time. I don't know what's going to, still don't know where it's going. But as we were saying the other day, Will, I'm okay with not knowing where it's going. That's all right.
Yeah, that always begs the question, doesn't it? What is actually the difficult bit here? Is it picking up the phone or is it the thinking about what might happen if you pick up the phone? What's actually causing the friction and the rub and the discomfort?
I think it's about caring what other people think
Mm.
when we decide to choose ourselves and what's in our best interest. We're socialized humans, all of us in this group, especially. I mean, I don't mean that in a confrontational sense, but if we are so hung up about what someone's going to think of us or people's feelings, then that's going to stand in our way, even if it comes from the right place. I don't want to hurt so and so's feelings, or the place of I don't want to. Am I ready to lose this job? Am I ready to lose this client? Um, yeah,
Mm. I
or
love.
this relationship. Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
No, no, my bad. I love how you framed that as choosing yourself, how you framed that as a choice. Love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Karen.
Well, thank you, Chris, for the 80/20 thing, because, that's a really helpful thing to have when you're in overwhelm, which is something that I am quite prone to at the moment. So that's really, really useful. I'm going to go back to the choosing yourself, or I might ignore it altogether. Yeah, I've realized reading this how guilty I am of this, like more guilty than I even thought. And they say that self-development is just shelf development. Oh, well, I've got books. I got a lot of books. I've read a lot of books, can't even remember what's in a lot of them. However, this the Steve Chartered books are on a different level to me. They're making more of a difference to me than any other book has. I just love the simplicity of it. But so there's a few things. I haven't really got anything left to say, but I suppose like when we're thinking about, I have been making judgments on myself without actually proving whether or not they're true. And that has stopped me from doing things. So I'm just going to acknowledge that and try and remember it. I remember having loads of insights when I was on Clarity and living quite a comfortable life. And it was great, like, ooh, principle, ooh. And then I needed them. Like when Al nearly died, it was very, very traumatic. It wasn't, it was completely unexpected and it was highly unpleasant. And I had I had to I had to walk the talk that I'd been talking to clients and stuff. Really, that was where the rubber met the road. And it was in that moment that I realized what I can cope with. And that I had changed. I had insights that I was so grounded in, but I would never have said that I was, because I hadn't had to test them really. And it was quite amazing to experience that, and to realize that I've got more going on than I thought. And another, not just a stupid thing, I remember the first gig I ever did, I thought I was going to die. I was really scared. And then playing in front of like really famous people when I was really, really new, I wanted to die, actually. It was awful. There was a hearse in front of me when I was driving down to play in front of all the really, really good drummers in the UK. And I really wanted to be in that hearse. I thought that was the easier option. It was easy. It's almost like staying in your little cocoon. It was easier to just not do the fucking thing. But actually, when I did the thing, it didn't work out anything like I thought it was going to. It was absolutely cool. And once I'd started, it wasn't at the end. It wasn't at the end of the gig. I've done it. It's over. It was literally getting behind that drum kit that wasn't mine. So I wasn't even like, it wasn't my setup. Hearing it mic'd beautifully, and then just like, this is awesome. And off I went, and I was just on it. And I enjoyed the doing of it. Whereas sometimes I can only enjoy the after event, you know. But yeah, I don't even know what I'm gonna say. But we were saying about like the risk and stuff, and the difference, you know, like physiologically, can't speak, I've taken teeth out. Between excitement and anxiety, you know, there's not a great deal of difference physiologically. It's just the story we tell about the feeling. So I changed quite a few years ago my my beliefs about anxiety, and I get that feeling and I think, right, exciting, I'm going to do new stuff. So for me, it's not so much fear, because I haven't really felt fear for a long time. Been quite lucky. I certainly have in the past. I'm quite old. I've done plenty of anxiety. But so for me, it is buying into the story that I know. Either I know what's going to happen, or I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't want, you know, like not that, without having that lightness of like, just fuck it, like don't buy into the story, just do the thing and then see. So that's more of my thing, is believing my bullshit. And I didn't realize, I have been becoming quite aware of it over the last few weeks, especially since I've been working with Will. But like this chapter really made me feel like a right twonk. Like it's, oh my God, it's so simple. What an idiot. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is, like, you know, when Chris was saying about, you know, it's fear of what other people think, what others think, and then if we choose ourselves, I wrote put others first because I really liked it, and I thought it was a nice little snapshot. I like to quote. I will be quoting you, Chris, to my clients, just so that you know, all of you actually. And I thought, well, there's two sides to that. There's the putting yourself first when you're so caught up in your ego that it becomes difficult, because you're coming from a place of ego, putting yourself first, like what's important about what people think of me. And then there's choosing yourself, which is a completely different energy, isn't it? And I really liked thinking about both of those things because they're both relevant when we're thinking about other people. And they look like they're the same and they just aren't. They're opposite. But I think that's all I've got to say.
It really strikes me when you said that it's so simple and in an exasperated manner. And then, you know, what you said towards the beginning of your share, like Steve Chandler's books are really doing it for me. And I think a huge part of that, reading his work kind of feels like you're being reminded of something. It's almost the experience of reading it is almost like you knew it, something deep in you knew it, and he's reconnecting you to it. And he's writing in a way that's very simple. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is simple, but we don't think that way, or we come to not think that way. I think we live in a very complex world. We've reached a point in societal development where we are what would be classed as a highly complex society. It's global. It's so interconnected. And life seems to be very complicated. And yet these truths that have been pointed to and that have been inherent, and people have been pointing at this stuff for thousands of years. Something in us knows this stuff. Something in us feels at home when we have those shifts, those insights, those moments.
It's like the unlearning, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we are the David and somebody's just chipping away at everything that isn't us, and then there we are underneath all that bullshit story. I've got to learn to stop swearing. I did decide to give up swearing for Lent. So that's going well.
Oh, I love that. Now I've got an image of Steve Chandler. It's just walking around, just chipping at all of us, and we are all the Davids in this scenario. But you're absolutely right. There is such an unlearning with this stuff, and it feels like you're being reminded. It's speaking to the simplicity that is naturally there. But you say it yourself. We're meaning making machines. And I wonder if that's the price we pay for the level of creativity that we are capable of.
I think that is you know, I always think with you know, a lot of the anxieties and stuff that we have, it's just made up stuff that we project into the future, isn't it? And it's one of those things that we can get so caught up in it, and we have to remember that we've made it up, and it's the price. It is the price we pay for creativity. But without it, we wouldn't be able to organize anything. Without the ability to make up something that didn't exist, we wouldn't be able to plan a holiday and things like that. So I think we've got this natural tendency to make stuff up and to create, and that's brilliant. And just, again, like we said last time, it's just the noticing when we've gone that step too far and we start living as if it's real and forgetting that we've made it up.
And again, that boils back to useful, not useful. I remember
I really like that.
Yeah, my guitar tutor, the final year of music uni, one of the topics being the last year and getting into the final terms, yeah, the anxiety level or the apprehension of we're a whole bunch of musicians that are about to be released into the wild. What the fuck is going to happen? And he was a very, very, he's an interesting guy. He's a guitarist through and through. It just the embodiment of your classic guitarist, very cheeky, completely not PC at all. But when there was something so zen about him. He was also a kung fu master. Like he actually trained in all of that. When he got serious about something, this calm would fall over him and be like, oh shit, this is like master level that we're talking about. And he said this stuff. And I don't think I got it at the time. He was like, all of that anxiety is you using your creativity in a way that's not helpful for you, that's not useful. But it's the same thing. So it's the same part of your brain. You're being creative right now, sitting there imagining you're not going to be able to find work. I get it now. I get it now, and yet I forget. I struggle to live from that. And then the worst, I think what's also difficult now, if you want one of your anxieties to be validated, you can find that anywhere on the internet very, very quickly. If you want to worry about the future of humanity, go and watch the news. If you want to worry about the collapse of Western civilization, there's every article. This is me at 3 a.m. last night, by the way. So I'm fully calling myself out and putting in systems to like drop it because you're worrying and you're fueling it, and you know you're fueling it because it's easy to go, I've got to worry and I want to feel validated, and I can go on the internet, I find whatever I want and find other people and read the comments section and can all worry together about stuff that literally has not happened.
No, probably not even true. I don't watch the news for that reason. Yeah. I love that. I love the way that it's tied in with the is that useful as well. Thank you for that.
I don't think I've thought about it that way for a really long time. What's the price that you pay for your creativity? The fact that you can conceptualize on a huge level. We're the closest thing to gods in the traditional sort of religious sense in terms of what we can create. We've put people
Made in the creator's image.
Yeah. We've put people on the moon. We'll put people on Mars, probably. Like it's insane what we've done, what we continue to do. It's incredible. But a mind like that, it's almost you can't have one without the other. If you're capable of conceptualizing, like seeing this thing that orbits Earth and going, how can I get there? If you can conceptualize and think on that level, am I going to die tomorrow? That's also, that level of thinking and anxiety is also going to creep in. Hence why we have this and coaching and whatever helps. So we can learn to use it in a helpful way and catch ourselves when we're misusing it. Is there any more, Karen?
Well, I could talk forever, but I'm not going to on this occasion because I want to hear what Sean's got to say. And we might go in a completely different direction, might we? So I'm all right for now, thanks.
Sean.
That was a Scooby-Doo ending, that one. I would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for you kids and that dog. Yeah, do you know what? A couple of things come up, and actually, I suppose carrying on from that um, that last bit first, I'll say it while it's fresh in my head. But again, it's about so some of the stuff I've been watching around imagination and kind of the thing that distinguishes us from other creatures in nature is this ability to imagine, to use it's a gift and a curse at the same time. It's the whole or the two faces of was it Janus or Janus or the Greek. I think it was Greek or Roman, because all the gods came from Greece or Rome at some point, didn't he? They did in Clash of the Titans anyway. But the two-faced deity of looking in different directions, and it's this thing of imagination is such a gift when we use it for those creative pursuits. So like you say, going to the moon, and we wouldn't be flying if the Wright brothers hadn't had that imagination to create flight from the various kind of experiments that had gone beforehand, and the flapping wing things and all this kind of stuff that you see on planes from years ago. And it's amazing that same power can be used to create our darkest anxieties and fears, and I know kind of sort of next week's the love and fear sort of distinction thing. I think it's the next block in the book. But it always reminded me of the commensurate speech that it's beginnings, endings, and gates. I fell on my Janus today. I just wondered if his first name was Hugh. Sorry, it just popped in there. It just had to come out, yeah, and sort of Jim Carrey kind of, fear is going to be a player in your life. How much of it you get to decide. And I was like, oh yeah, it is. And with me and my lyrical sort of jumping on, there was a song at level 42 did back in the 90s, called Take a Look. And one of the lyrics is, you must surely know, man made heaven, then man made hell. And it's this idea that we're creating it from the same substance, the same thought substance, and what we get to create with it, going back to conversations we've had on these calls about sort of being childlike. Generally, we use imagination in a very productive kind of imaginative way, where we can dream of being whatever, when you go around a class, whether it's kind of primary school, kindergarten, that kind of thing, and you sort of say to the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, one of King Arthur's knights, or an astronaut, or kind of like, I want to be the front half of a dragon, or whatever. There's no kind of limitations that are placed there. Whereas we ask ourselves as adults, once we get into the imagined selves we've built for ourselves, it can be, well, I might be able to do this. I've got these skills, so I think I could kind of do that. And straight away we put that lid on, that glass ceiling on the ability to imagine where we could take ourselves, and the whole conversation sparked at the start made me made me think of the Matrix, the red pill, blue pill scene. You know, and the fact that Morpheus kind of goes, you know, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself, you know. And then he's obviously given the pills, and he says, if you take the blue pill and the story ends and you go back to your bed and believe whatever it is you want to believe, you know. But if you take the red pill, you can stay in Wonderland, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that for me was that, you know, when it's experienced, you can't, you know, you're in, you kind of, you're through that door, you know, rather than doing the okey cokey where you kind of put your left hand in, then your left hand out, and kind of sort of decide what you're going to do sort of in the meantime. And that for me was that whole thing of transformation and insight is, which kind of tied in with, which is kind of looped back around for me just then. What you were saying before about, you know, you can't, you know, you can't sort of take clients further than you've gone yourself. Always to that effect. But that actually reminded me of something that I remember reading about Sid Banks, and when he was talking about sort of psychiatrists and so on, and people when the three principles was quite early, who were working with people. And of course, sometimes the clients would have a massive download, a massive insight, when the psychiatrist hadn't. And Sid was like, oh yeah, there's no hierarchy. It's like you have one or you don't. It's like, it's just because you're the psychologist and they're the client that you've got some kind of, you know, rank over them that will, well, you're not allowed to have an insight because I haven't had one yet. So you've got to wait your turn type thing, you know. He was kind of like, look, when it happens, and you know it's the right time because it's happened. And you know it's the right insight because you got the download, you know. And I just thought that was interesting in terms of even how we view that, you know. I know sometimes people talk about the insight police and what have you. Yeah. Have you had the right insight today? It's kind of, yeah. You're not allowed to have that insight yet. I haven't had it. Wait your turn, boy. You know. And then even with that, just got me thinking, if we're really good with our imagination and what we can create, how do we know when it's a true insight? You know, be it a small one, big one, what have you, rather than our imagination running wild and going, ooh, is this an insight? Have I just had an insight? Oh, I think I've had an insight. Because I know I've done that and kind of gone, oh yeah, I've just had an insight. And I've gone, or have I just made up that I've had an insight because I've read this stuff and I'm in the vortex of, you know, 3P videos and stuff. Yeah, looking for gold in the dung pile. I don't know if there's an answer to that, by the way. You know, I just thought I'd do that grenade thing and throw it in and run and see what happens.
It's got me thinking. What's coming up for me is that I usually feel an insight for the rest of the day. Something washes over. There's some physiological sensation or feeling that accompanies it. There's peace. There is a feeling of peace. And then going back to what I was saying earlier, I don't want that to end.
Yeah.
That felt fucking good. I want to feel that inspired and clear 24/7. And then the misunderstanding of, oh, I need to feel that clear and inspired 24/7 to take action. And then reading this chapter today is like, thank you, Steve. Duly noted. We'll get on with it.
Yeah. And it's even with the small step stuff as well. Stood out for me. I know that the is it James Clear, Atomic Habits? A lot of people kind of go, oh, Atomic Habits, you got to read Atomic Habits and what have you. But somebody actually put me on to Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, who was actually the mentor of James Clear. And his book is basically saying that it doesn't have to be this grand sort of, you know, this habit that you create, which kind of rocks the world. Is like, actually, that will come about as a series of small, accumulated tiny steps and tiny little things that you do. Which kind of in this section, you know, Steve's talking to the thing of, you know, I think he references Matt Fury, which his book's really good, actually, Matt Fury's book, where he talks about doing something for a minute. And he's like, clean your room for a minute. I bet you can't do it, you know, because you'll keep going. But all it takes is 1 minute. Or if you're a chili pepper, it's 1 hot minute. It's and that accumulated, you know, by the end of that, you know, if you're saying you haven't got time to do stuff, do that for a minute. Do it for a minute. You know, clean your room for a minute. Practice your music for a minute. You know, sort of cook something for a minute. Read a book for a minute. You know, whatever it. And basically, you end up, you know, achieving things that might have appeared sort of, you know, too far over the horizon.
I love the Pomodoro technique, which I've been playing with. Set a clock for 15 minutes. And so at any given point, let's say I've set aside, I'm like, right, there's a portion of a few hours free, right? Client cultivation activities and stuff like that. But I'll still set the timer for 15. At any given point, it's like, I've only got to sit down for 15 minutes. And that will go, and then I'll do another 15. And then I might go and make a coffee, and I come back. I can do 20. And you quite quickly you get into flow, and then the alarm goes off, and you're like, oh no, shut up. Like, no, carry on. And then sometimes not. Sometimes you're like, cool. Yeah. I've done 2 or 3 rotations of that, 45 minutes. Okay. Do something else for a bit. Is there any more?
The last thing that I've just got to say, and I've noticed this for weeks, is your peacock dragon silhouette on the wall behind you. I see it every week. You know, the other side. So where the light kind of reflects through the guitars, you can just see the nose and the snout of the peacock dragon as it's coming towards the top. And I sit there and have a little chuckle to myself every week, and I thought, I'm gonna have to say something, because sometime I'm sat there looking at you, and I'll just glance across at the peacock dragon to over your shoulder. Just thought.
It looks like the headstock attacking me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chris.
Speaking of creation, the peacock dragon. Okay. So we've got that. We've got that now. Thank you, Sean. Love it. Fucking love it. Let me just work my way backwards quickly because this did come to mind, Sean. You brought it up. Section 5, where he talks about your great leap forward. And the chapter is called "The Great Leap Forward is What Stops Us." Again, because we think we've got to always has to be some grand gesture, and it can't be some small day to day, some small shift. And Will, I love that you brought up the Pomodoro technique because I've been experiencing that this week, drilling down on my sight reading. It's something that I don't look forward to when I start, but I'll tell myself, yeah, let me get through. I've got a website where I can pull up songs and just have the audio and the transcription and read at the same time and just move on. Don't stop, mistake or not, move on, keep going, just like it would happen in real time. I'm trying to push my sight reading skills right now. And so that's been good training. But of course, what happens is I'll get to the end of the time I set for myself, whatever it is, 20, 25 minutes, and think, just one more. And before just one more is later, and it's an hour and a half has gone by, and I have forgotten to drink water or to eat. So super useful. And I love that focus on again, the small wobbly steps in the right direction, what we know to be the right direction. What prompted me to raise my hand, though, was to when you were questioning how do we know an insight? And I would offer, I don't know this to be true, but what came up for me there was, well, is it prompting a shift in my behavior or leading me towards a shift in a behavior that I know needs to change or that I haven't started? And I know a thing a step I need to take. And if I look back over my history and think about moments of insight I had, that's been the linking characteristic the whole time. And of course, and I love that you also spoke of it, feeling it physically in the body. That is a thing that happens, and I can attest to that too. But again, it's back to if insights feed transformation, as we would think they should, then I suppose that's how we know. And if we're not taking that step, if it's in our body and we're inclined to do it, despite the resistance, despite not knowing where it might lead, then that's probably, I would offer, that's probably a good sign.
I love that you went to the this is what stops us, taking the big leap. And I've made some notes here, a whole bunch of examples that I play with. This feeling that is it a feeling or a belief? I don't know. Whatever thing I commit to, I've got to do like forever. And so it becomes this huge thing. For example, what you were saying, like your sight reading, that would go through my lens and go, okay, I want to work on my sight reading. Okay, I've got to do that every day, 5 days a week for the next years and years and years on end, rather than say, I don't know, maybe like, oh, this month I'm doing a whole bunch of this. And then maybe next month I might do a bit more of this. Or if you're a multi-instrumentalist, like I spent a couple of months on the drums. I might spend the next month on the bass. That's just one example. But yeah, I'm fascinated by how difficult we make things for ourselves by creating it as this really big, it's going to dominate your life and you need to commit and do it every day, forever, for hours. And yeah, rather than a bit here, a bit there.
But that linking this to the talk of the gods, though, I thought of Kali, the Hindu deity that is the great destroyer, and of this pattern of you know the cycle of order, disorder, reorder, and there's always destruction necessary to set the stage for the next creation, right? And Alan Watts talks about kids in the sandbox and how we build this thing or we make the sandcastle on the beach or whatever, and then we just want to boom, knock it down. But while you're in it, it's the greatest fucking sandcastle, and you're just totally lost in it. And there's no reason to think that it's going to be there forever. It's not. But if what we're doing in that moment or for that day is enough, then that can just be enough. And the idea that then we can move on to other, tomorrow's tomorrow, next week is next week. Let's see how we feel like then. I think that's a version of that urge we have to just play with it, to coin a phrase. We want to, of course, we want to be, we don't expect results in any one particular area unless we're willing to just sort of like push through any sort of resistance, like, I don't feel like it so much today. Maybe I'll just let it go. That's not the same thing as that's actually getting stuck, because and that's a choice we can make. But if just 10 minutes, if you can do 10 minutes, then you can walk away and forget about it. But I guarantee you, 80% of the time, 80, we'll want to keep going, because then we remember, oh yes, this is, I do enjoy this. I don't like starting it, but I like it when I'm in it.
Well, I feel like I'm going to ask Nick for a coaching session on this, because now this brings up a dilemma I notice for myself. That sort of looser creative play. It's like, okay, today's today, tomorrow is tomorrow, next week is next week. That and consistency. So there are some things. Okay, what are the big things in my life? There's health, physical health, well-being, mental well-being, building coaching, moving into the parts of music I want to do. So these, 4 areas of consistency. And then balancing that with, I don't know, there's a part of me that struggles to compute or imagine what a looser consistency would look like. If that makes sense. There's something to play with. Is there any more, Chris? Awesome. Thank you. So we've got just under 10 minutes left. So, Sean.
Oh, sorry, that's still up from before. I've not lowered me. I'm like, oh, yeah. I just had an insight. Maybe it was good. Yeah, no. Nothing to add here. Nothing to say here. Move on, Bar Brady. She is right. No, let's bring Liz in. She's
Yes. Who was it? Karen or Elizabeth? Who had their hand up?
Mine's just really quick.
Awesome.
So for me, an insight is when you see things differently to how you saw it before, and you can't unsee it. So when you see the picture of the old woman and the young woman, and you can only see one of them, and all of a sudden you see the other one, you always know it's there. You can't go backwards from that. You are forever changed. And the other thing that I wanted to just say is like, this has been really helpful, because in the domino one that we did, where we were talking about completing actions, and I'm very good at not completing them. I'm really good at getting a lot of them done, and then, oh look, squirrel, and then going off to do something more exciting. I do struggle with starting things. And it's only when I take the pressure off and I think, oh right, I don't have to do this right now, that I just, oh well, just do that little thing. And so this whole little bit of a tiny little bit is building that in. So, and it doesn't have to be the detail about what you're doing. It's almost like, you know, the principles are the principles. And this gravity, it doesn't matter if it's the pen. It's like the content of the thought doesn't matter when you know it is the principle of the thought. The consistency and the system that creates the consistency and the tiny little steps is the important thing. And that will, I feel, necessarily just move things on. And it may be that it isn't in a direction that you expected to go in, but even that, that gets back to you can't steer a stationary vehicle. As long as you're doing something, it may all of a sudden not make sense to be in a heavy metal band. It might, but in doing that, you find something else. That's just an example. It'll always make sense to be in a heavy metal band. Put that one out there. So that's all I have to say.
No, I love that. Love that. Yeah, because within all, yeah, what comes up for me there is the difference between going through life with blinkers on and laser focus on an outcome versus listening in. And I hadn't played with the phrase "makes sense" until really recently. And I think I've picked it up just from hearing Nick say, oh, if it makes sense to. And I've started sort of repeating it and just playing with it and saying, and I'm like, okay, there's something in this. Listening to myself, does this actually make sense right now? Or is there I don't know, sunk cost fallacy? Someone does something for long enough, they're like, well, I'm invested now, even though they absolutely don't want to be doing it. They've been doing it so long. It's just blinkers. Love that. Thank you. And Elizabeth.
Thanks. Real quick, I raised my hand. Something that Chris said prompted this note. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it kind of links to what Karen was saying too. Just in something in the information transformation choice. Steve was talking about like information. People are looking for how to do something, like people who don't know how to do what they want to do, right? And there was something in to your point, Will, what you just said, like taking the blinders off, like you don't need to. And this goes back to previous chapters too. Like you don't need to know how to do it to play with it, and the freedom that opens up. Yeah. And what you were just saying about not being attached to outcome, like you don't have to have the outcome nailed down, figured out already. Just start doing it. And learning and changing yourself in the process, and how you change can be completely different where you first started, you thought you were going,
Yeah, that's an interesting one because throughout it's come up again today, but throughout the book club, the we've talked about trying to work it out ahead of time. I really want to see the path ahead, or like I want to know what's going to happen. You're trying to work it out, and being that level of fixated on an outcome exists. This is a really fresh thought, but it looks like it exists in that camp also.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like a fine line between strategizing and holding it so closely, white knuckling it so tightly that you
Mm.
can't with it. I'm saying that for myself, you know? Yeah.
Oh, and that begs the question. I'm thinking about this for myself now as well. Is there a part of you that thinks you need that outcome? If
Yeah.
if you are holding it that tight, if it's what you think about day in, day out, if it is outcome over process 24/7, I would begin to wonder, as I am right now, uh, you're okay. It looks like you're very attached to this outcome. What's going on there? What would you need it for? Just something to get curious about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. I know we're at time, so I'm good.
Real time. 29. Dennis, I think it is fitting that you close the call.
Why? Just because I'm still alive?
That's part of the reason.
Um, it was a Chandler book. I'm trying to remember. No, it was a Jamie Smart book. And whoever the example was that was in the book was talking about outcomes. And the focus was allowing for outcomes that we never imagined possible, or that we never imagined would be a logical progression of what it was that we were pursuing. Because you could be such an anal retentive asshole when it comes to, wanting certain things to be, you know what I mean? And that comes from fear.
Hmm.
It comes from discomfort. And I got to tell you that one of the things that I learned when I started doing what I'm doing with the Dream Chaser is to get used to being uncomfortable doing what I'm doing. Because that's where the fucking magic happens. When I don't have control, when I trust the universe, when I trust the process, when I trust who and what I am, and just fucking go for it.
Hmm.
And it's a beautiful fucking thing. I want you guys to know how much I love you all and what a great thing it is to be a part of this family. And thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here and glad that you are here. And that's left me with that's really tied in with actually, I had a coaching call with someone earlier. They were coaching me, and the task for the week is check in with where you're coming from. Is it love or is it fear? Hmm. Thank you. Guys, thank you for going over a couple of minutes. Thank you for another amazing call. I will see you next Monday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or any of the other days. Lots of love to you all. Take care.